As any filmmaker can tell you, finding time to make a short film can be a bit difficult. Sometimes you have to shoot around people's schedules, and sometimes it can take weeks of intermittent shooting to get anything accomplished. But what if I were to tell you that you didn't have to worry about any of this? That there was an event that took place at different festivals around the country that gets you a short under your belt and in a short amount of time. I present to you the Time Restricted Challenge. The Time Restricted Challenge, as it were, are competitions that force filmmakers to adhere to a timeline and gets them in a space that makes them think quickly about how they can film a given story within a short amount of time. Some of these events happen over the course of a week. Some can last even 48 hours, or even somewhere even closer to 24 hours. It really depends on where you are. This past month, I participated in the Tri-Cities International Film Festival's 72-hour film challenge, which is really fun. This isn't my first rodeo with them because the past few years I've been able to place a few different times. In 2022, I was able to place first in the open category for the uninvited guest, which I have a behind-the-scenes thing for. And in 2024, I also managed to do one for launch day, which got first place. But even then, I've been using these 72-hour competitions these past 10 years to really practice my craft and hone in on what I want out of my stories. Which is why I think that doing these types of competitions could actually help you if you're struggling. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, oh, I don't have a team. How am I going to make an award-winning film? Firstly, I've done award-winning films that were shot just by myself. In fact, as I was alluding to earlier with The Uninvited Guest, that film was shot mostly by me. I almost didn't have anyone. I had my brother record one shot in that film, and that was about it. Everything else was shot, acted, edited, everything by me. So it's not really a big deal if you don't necessarily have a team. But secondly, you don't need to worry about making an award-winning film. I don't think that should be the metric of this type of stuff. And again, I've been doing these for so long, I can promise you, if you're only thinking of doing these things for the prizes and potentially money or trophies or notoriety, then you're not really doing it right. These competitions are good for a few different things. For one thing, you get to know other filmmakers, and filmmaking is as good as the connections that you make. I mean, think about it for a second. If you meet other filmmakers that, they like your film, you like their film, you can exchange, contact information, and you can, try to plan for something. These are connections that are worthwhile, and you need to have. Another thing that these types of festivals give you, as I've alluded to before, is a film that is under your belt. It definitely is hard sometimes getting the time that you need to get your films done. But if you can find a time to be able to take the time off for the weekend of doing one of these types of challenges, you should. And look, even if you don't necessarily have a team, there are probably other teams that are within the competition that are actively looking for people to help them with their projects. And I think that is, again, another good opportunity for people to network. Because again, as I've said before, filmmaking is a connections-based type art system. You have to be able to make connections and talk to people in order to get things done. That's just the short end of it. So now let's talk about the competition itself that I was in recently. And it all starts with the kickoff meeting. This is where a 72-hour competition will give teams their prerequisites. They will give you a max runtime. Some festivals will do 1 to 3 minutes. Some will do under 5 minutes. Some will be 5 to 10 minutes. But you gotta make it within that time. You gotta be able to have your story be told within that short amount of time. And you just got to do it. What else can I say, honestly, with that part? But you're also given, some festivals give you a little bumper to put at the beginning of your film. Those are required. And a lot of the times they will not necessarily count towards your runtime, so don't really worry about that. For example, my film, when it was fully edited and everything, was 4 minutes and 47 seconds. And 5 seconds of that bumper, if you remove that, it's 4 minutes and 42 seconds. I could have easily have put another, probably another, like, 18 seconds on that film, and it would have been 5 minutes and 5 seconds. It would not have gone over the 5 minute mark because, again, it doesn't count. And also, depending on your competition, you'll be given different requirements. I know for horror films, they tend to be like, okay, well, you need to have a specific murder weapon. And music videos, they have other different requirements, but the festival that I applied to had these types of requirements. So for prop color, meaning you can basically have any type of prop as long as it has the specific color, and that is purple. We also were given a hand gesture. Last year it was like this, the number one. This year it was clapping. So that was interesting. And then we also had the line, "No time like never," which I just want to be frank here. Okay, I want to be real frank right now. "No time like never" sounds grammatically incorrect. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't necessarily roll off the tongue well, and it was a pain in the ass to figure out how I could use it in the script. And last but not least, the theme of the film itself has to be deja vu related, either literally or metaphorically. And deja vu is an interesting theme because literally it is so narrow in what it is describing, but it is also limitless with how it has been interpreted. For example, precognition is an example of deja vu. Predicting events is something that you're supposed to be like, oh, okay, so if this will happen in the future. For example, Final Destination, the film franchise, is notable for this type of thing. You have a character that has a premonition, and then that comes back in the form of a payoff, and that adds to the horror and suspense of that type of movie. Arrival has a really cool use of deja vu, since the main character is thinking along the lines of how the aliens are, speaking. They speak, non-linearly. Human beings have a linear mind, and thusly, the more that she studies the language of these aliens, that she is able to think about time in a non-linear pattern. Meaning a lot of the things that we see in the sort of flashback-style things are actually flash-forwards. So a lot of it is a little deja vu, if you can count that. There's an episode of Red Dwarf called Future Echoes, where the Red Dwarf crew they jump to light speed, and after the light speed, they kind of hit something of a snag, because now they're being faced with future echoes, events that have yet to happen, because they're trying to catch up with they're trying to catch up with all the rest of the molecules after stopping light speed, or a jump, or I can't remember what they call it. It's in the show, but there's like things that happen, like Cat is shown to have his tooth be broken, and no one necessarily knows what happens, how this happens, and so they try to stop Cat from getting his tooth broken, because in the process it might stop the events of Lister dying in the near future on Red Dwarf. It's a really funny episode. I'm not going to talk about it too much. Just watch Red Dwarf. And honestly, people need to watch Red Dwarf more. Really funny show. I can't wait to see what else they do with that series. They keep making more stuff for it, and yeah, that's really fun. But the most common use of deja vu, more often than not, is used in things like a time loop. Things like Live, Die, Repeat, or Palm Springs, or Happy Death Day, or, of course, Groundhog's Day. I knew going in that I didn't necessarily want to do a box standard time loop movie. It is the most simple, easiest, first thing you think of type thing when you think of deja vu. And I really had no other options. I didn't know what else there could have been and what type of story that would have made it even more satisfying. I didn't know how to really integrate a lot of these elements together to make it work really well. So I thought time loop worked the best. But I also wanted to have my own spin with it. For the rest of the elements, I figured that a birthday party would be the perfect setting for this type of film because A, you could have a birthday party and have clapping, the family and friends are all clapping, it's a very common thing. It adds to it. And the purple itself could be the birthday cake, a central focus thing. It is a prop that is kind of telling this story, helping to tell the story. And I envisioned a character that would snarkily say something like, no time like never, eh? Or something like that whenever the main character says, I wish I, didn't have to grow up. And all of this was coming together, and this was about late Thursday night after the kickoff, so yeah, with a deadline of Sunday at 5 p.m., things were going smoothly. Friday was just a day that we kind of got things together. The set was being cleaned up. We had to move some things around into the kitchen and make sure the dishes were clean and all this other stuff to make sure that set decorations and all that type of stuff just came together. And by the end of Friday, we had baked a small chocolate cake covered with purple frosting to be able to use in the shooting on Saturday, and I'll get to that in a minute. And when I was asked what we wanted to have on the cake, I literally didn't really think of anything. I didn't have any idea of what could be on the cake. I didn't want it necessarily to be generic, like, happy birthday, Sam. Like, I didn't want to do that. Like, I don't know. Like, if I had the time and the money to be able to do this again, I would love to have weird things happen to the lettering on the cake. I would love to have different phrases on the cake. Like, really make it the weirdest thing in the world, but I digress. We didn't necessarily have any party hats or banners because, well, to be honest, whenever we do birthdays, we don't really have party hats, and we don't have birthday banners anymore, because me and my brother were adults, so I had to go to the store to pick up some party hats and a birthday banner, and I just, I threw them up. I did them, I put up the party hats, and I put up the banner, and pretty much in total, the production cost was about $10, I think. $10, $12. I don't know how much the frosting was because we had to get some new frosting, but yeah. And with all of that done, all we needed now was some talent. I had sent the script over to Rob and Ethan, a couple of friends of mine from the community theater. Both of them were pretty enthusiastic about joining up to make this a reality. But the only problem that I found with trying to schedule with them ahead of time was that the only day that I could get them to film was Saturday, which meant that by the time we finished shooting, I would have less than 24 hours to edit, which, to be fair, I have done this before, where I would have a Saturday shoot that would take me into the middle of the night, and then I would finish the edit maybe Sunday morning, and then, submit it. Like, it's not my first rodeo, I've done this before. My mom would have to play the mother in this film, and originally I was wanting either Brian, another friend of mine from community theater, or Roy Jones, who played the dad in Launch Day, my last 72-hour project, to play the some guy character in the film, the one that says, no time like never, right? But because of their busy schedules, I had to fill in the role of some guy, so I'm some guy. But one member in specifics was missing. In the script, I had written that the protagonists would age rapidly to the point where they become a skeleton. I did not have a skeleton on hand, nor did I have the money to buy a skeleton from Walmart. So I was kind of freaking out a little bit. I was asking around with friends and people on like community Facebook pages to see if I could borrow a skeleton, which is such an odd request, to be sure. But fortunately for me, my mother had a friend who has a skeleton, and his name is Larry. Larry the Skeleton is by far and away the best actor that I have ever worked with because he's a skeleton. Oh, and funny story about this. When I was picking up Larry from Christine, I went to a local eatery, And a friend of mine was working that day, and so she decided to take a picture of me and Larry in the drive-through, and I found that really funny, and she sent me the picture. So, thanks Erica for that picture, so we could put it in this behind the scenes. And whenever we had Larry on set, we kept making jokes that he was the best actor and the guy that had the easiest job on set, because all he had to do was sit there as a skeleton, motionless, and he knocked it out of the park. The only sort of missed opportunity I had with Larry was not having a like one of those party blower things, one of those things in his mouth. Uh, and we could have used that for like a promotional poster or whatnot. It still bothers me that I did not have that, but I had to move on. All right, so Saturday rolls around. We're finishing up making the set look nice. We didn't have any lighting setups for this type of thing. I thought about it for a bit, and I'm like, I don't know if I want too many lights for this, because we already had an overhead light that was a ceiling fan, and we had the backlighting, which was provided by the sun, which is amazing. And then we also had like a smaller like lamp light that was behind me in the camera, so it wasn't too bad. I did also think that during the editing, though, there were some shots where I kind of wish that there was a bounce card to be able to bounce some light into my talents' faces to, light them up a little bit more. But to be honest, I think the final result looks fine. We shot for nearly 2 to 3 hours that day. But before we did any of that, we walked through the script, made sure everyone was on point of what this is, where we were going, what type of thing we were going for, the whole 9 yards. For the elements that I knew that I would have to repeat, I basically shot me and my mom, and we took maybe 1 or 2 takes, and we decided which ones were the best. Like, which ones were the best, and we had to stick with the same ones, because these were elements that had to be looped repeatedly. Which kind of got a little bit hairy when it came to editing this. We'll get to that in a minute. With Ethan playing Sam in this film, we had a bunch of different takes of different things that we wanted to include. Here's one that he suggested, and it didn't quite make the film, mostly because of my incompetence with the camera.
All right, go. Where's the cake? Why isn't it lit? It's lit now.
Rob would have to play an older version of Ethan's character, Sam, in the film, and we had this amazing shot with him, which kind of turned tragic, because the thing is that during the take, everything was going well, and then the candle fizzled out, and it was so good. It was a really cool thing, because I had never thought of doing that, in the story, of just like having the candle just fizzle out towards like the end of his like loops, and it was so cool. But the only problem was that the sound, my microphone, my shotgun mic that I was using, was turned off. I forgot to turn it back on. So the footage that you are seeing on screen has no sound. It had no sound, and any attempt that I could to try to splice that into the film itself was just impossible. I wish things could have gone a little bit differently with that. So, again, even the veterans of doing these types of competitions will trip up once in a while. So, kids, everyone, remember to make sure everything, all your equipment, is turned on and batteries are charged and everything. Moving on. And as I said before, when we got to Larry had the easiest job on set. And we filmed for about 4.5 minutes of just him sitting at the table with like the cake and the candle lit and whatnot. And we also wanted to see, like, the reason why the clip was so long was because we wanted to see if the candle could fizzle out again. And it just didn't. No dice. It was an element that I hope if I ever get a chance to remake this and make this a little bit longer, I would love to see if I could do that. And then speaking of candles, we wasted like 4 total candles during this shoot. We had like a box of like 12 or 13 candles or whatnot. And that was, that was pretty cool. And then when all was said and done, the prop itself, the cake, became our wrap party eating. We got to eat our cake. So, kids, if they ever say, you can't have your cake and eat it too, that's some BS. You can have your cake and eat it too. Go ahead, have the cake. And the aftermath of which I also shot, and I managed to put it in the credits of the short. Editing has always been the most daunting part about doing these types of things because it's not necessarily a matter of having to spend so many hours doing it. It's the fact of like you're having to start out and trying to put all these pieces together. But for me, once I get all these pieces together, it all starts to form and I just don't stop editing. Like that's just my thing. I started editing this around 6 p.m. on Saturday, which meant I had less than 24 hours to edit this film and get it delivered on time. The hardest part, I find at least, is just kind of trying to find all the different parts that I need and putting it into an assembly cut. The assembly cut, if you don't know, is where you take all the best takes that you had on each of the shots of each of the days of each of the scenes, and you put it all together in assembly cut. It's not, think of it as like a rough cut with like multiple different copies of like the same paragraph with maybe a couple different like touch-ups and tweaks and maybe a word replacement or two. Like that's kind of how it is. And then from the assembly cut, you cut it down, you whittle it, and then, you put it all together. And you remember how, like a few minutes ago, I was talking about how the repeated elements was going to cause me a little bit of a headache when it came to trying to put them into the timeline? Yeah, I'm not joking, because the way in which I had to put things together was actually having to go line by line, scene by scene, and highlighting which parts I had already done. Because the nature of this film, there's no like natural break of which scene is which. And so I had to highlight which parts I have done so far and then continue to work throughout the entire script, which is very different than what I had done in the past with a lot of these films. So, yeah, so make sure you keep track of everything that you're doing, because if you're doing a time loop, make sure that the repeated elements are the repeated elements that you need. And to make sure that the scene is done as it is. And so after I had finished the first third and the last third, and I edited it down to what I would like to have from each of those sections, it came down to the middle portion. The middle portion was daunting to say the least, because I had no idea how I was going to do the middle. Because the middle is just a montage of different takes and different things, and I wanted to edit it in a very unique way. I wanted to show a passage of time and not necessarily do it in a generic way where you see like a clock or like or like a title card that says many loops later. Like I didn't want to do that type of thing. So I got to use something I saw in film school from a music video that I had seen in a music video class. Oh, shout out to DJ Food Stamp. By the way, if you know, you know. If you are a U of O alumni, you'll know him. There was a music video that I had watched that did this weird onion layering effect, and so I wanted to kind of mimic that sort of thing to show this weird passage of time. Honestly, I probably could have spaced it out just a little bit more to make the layering more like layerful, but it works. It works for what it is, to be honest. Another thing I wanted to utilize was an idea that one of our actors, Rob, said. There was because the cake was on a Lazy Susan type of thing. We got the idea to spin the cake in the film, and so Rob was like, "What if you, in terms of like with the cake, what if, in terms of like showing that the loop is back, you blow out the candles and then you reverse the footage, which initially, when I wanted to show that, I was wanting to do one of those like trick candles where like you try to blow it out, it blows out, but then it lights back on fire. But I didn't have the money necessarily to do that type of thing. So I basically took up Rob's idea of taking the full forward footage, duplicating it, reversing the second footage, putting them both together, and it kind of makes it look like a GIF, sure, but the effect kind of works. And again, if the cake was not spitting, if the cake was not spinning, it probably would have been better. But it's fine. It's honestly fine. But it does look good. I really am impressed with that. And after about 5.5 hours, I was able to close the book on this film and ring my special bell that I now have in my office, which is a recreation of a Titanic bell that I could ring whenever I finish a project. Hey, it's about that time. We're done. We done. We out. At the time of me writing and recording this video, I have no entire clue whether or not me and my team won this year. And the screening of these 72-hour projects unfortunately falls on a day that I have to be performing in a play, because I'm currently in a production of Arsenic and Old Lace. And so I won't necessarily know what others thought about it either, because one of my favorite things after watching the films is getting to know the other filmmakers and hearing what they had to say about the films that each other have made. And, I always appreciate that type of thing. But unfortunately, I won't be able to do it this year either. And on top of that, I most certainly will not know if we won any awards until after the show that night, after the show that I'm in that night, which is honestly fine. Of course, I'm excited and nervous and anxious about the results, but to be frank with you, I wouldn't wait with bated breath. I have a life to live. I have a life to live, and I'm not going to waste that time being anxious about whether or not I'm going to win a trophy. Ooh. And again, I'm at a point where I've done so many of these, I've done so many films now that I don't necessarily care about the prestige. Like, it's cool that I get an award, that I can be proud of it, but there comes a certain point where you just don't necessarily care for the awards, and you're more or less caring about what you want to tell as a storyteller. And it's one of the first things I say to any new filmmaker, any new person that wants to get into film. Don't always put your films in a position where the only way that they are successful in your eyes is if they get awards. All right, I think we can all kind of agree with that notion that we shouldn't necessarily place our value as people on whether or not we win a thing. Like, yeah, it's cool and all, but what does your art say about you? What does your film say about you? Like, what do you like about your film, right? If they didn't like it, who gives a shit, right? Who cares? And at the end of the day, who honestly cares if you win a trophy or not? It's whether or not your film connected with you, and more importantly, whether or not the film connected with audiences. It shouldn't necessarily be that the only films that we praise are the ones that get the gold trophy or the medallion or a piece of paper that says, oh, you won first place. Like, again, I'm not downplaying the fact that awards are cool and all, right? I watch the Dead Meat Awards. I watch Fangoria. I watch, the Oscars and all that. But I don't necessarily let awards define whether or not my work means anything. And I think that is a worthwhile lesson for any filmmaker, in my opinion. Because in truth, to really care about, awards, especially in like a 72-hour competition thing, I think people should more or less the thing that you should more or less take away from an experience like a 72-hour film competition is not necessarily if you get an award or not. It's the fact that you created something. You created something in a short amount of time that seems like insurmountable odds to other people, right? And I think that is amazing. And at the same time, the thing that you get the most out of when you do one of these competitions is the experience. The experience helps inform you later down the road of what you can do with a film, how you can do this type of shot, or like it makes you rethink how you approach things creatively. That's why these things are important. And I think it's, again, it's amazing that anyone does this. I'm amazed with myself every time I do this every year. And I do these challenges, again, not for the awards. I do it for the experience. And I do it for the fun in creating things that I normally don't get a chance to. So here's the hoping that we win. Again, at the time of me recording this, I have not found out whether or not I have won. So I will cut to footage of me if we won, if we didn't win, whatever. So I'm recording this about a week after the screening and the awards ceremony. I've been processing a lot, actually. It's insane, really, because I've never had really any of these competitions affect me the way that this one did. I don't know what fully happened. I mean, I do, but I don't want to bog down this video too long because it's a very long video. But the thing that I've noticed is just the last few of these short films that I've done. The Uninvited Guests, Finding Red Riding Hood, last year with Launch Day, and now this year with Birthday Cake, or not Birthday Cake, but Birthday Wish. I keep thinking Birthday Cake. Is the fact that my circle of friends has grown so much. And usually in the past, whenever I've won an award, I'm like, oh yeah, I won an award, but I really like my film. I never really cared about it. But that night when I was told that we won an award, which I'll get to in a minute, we all went out to a bar. Or not all of us, but some of us went out to a bar. And we had a really great conversation about everything that's happened, both in the show that I'm in for Arsenic and Old Lace, but also with the film itself. And the thing that I've realized, and it's something that is very personal to me. For most of my life, I have felt lonely. I have felt lonely, yeah. Even when I was in Scouts, I was a Boy Scout. For those of you who didn't know, I'm actually an Eagle with all 3 palms. Even though I had all those achievements, I never really felt like I was included or I was seen. And the night of this particular win for us, it made me really feel seen. That's something I've never fully experienced in my life. People that I really care about in my life actually care about me. It's a crazy thought. It's a really crazy thought, and it's crazy. And all it took was one day to really figure that out. And and the crazy part is that when I look back on all the films that I've done, they were an attempt by me to make friends, to communicate, to feel like I was appreciated. And I think the biggest and craziest change that I've ever encountered in my life has been the fact that in the past year, ever since fully returning to my community theater roots, have I truly felt accepted and cared about. And it's not and I have some really great friends. I really do. And I started out this journey alone, and I thought I was going to be a wanderer for the rest of my life, just being a hermit on the side of the road making little films with like a snail on the side of the road. I don't know. I just thought of something funny and random. But I really feel like I can trust again, which is something I haven't said before. And at the time of me recording this, you know, I'm about to show this particular film to those very same people who really do love and care about me. And it's going to be a beautiful night. It's going to be a wonderful and beautiful night for me. And the moment that I realized all of that, it felt really good. And, and I've been in therapy for a long time. And usually, and like, look, no shade to talk therapy. I think talk therapy is really great because you're able to talk about your feelings in a safe environment. But I also think too is that there also needs to be an element of exposure. There needs to be an element of putting yourself out there and really trying to find the people in your life that make you feel good about yourself. Even as the world outside is burning and the world is shit, you start to figure out that there are people that you really do care about and that they care about you. And for most people, that's enough. I don't know where I would have been if I didn't have those people in my life. And I think that's what makes this award so special to me. That's why I think this film means so much to me. Even though it might not mean a lot to other people, it means a lot to me. The crazy part is I never told you what we won. We didn't win big, but we did win. We got second place. And I personally don't care if we ever win first place again, because this is a really powerful reminder to me how important community is, how important communication is, and how important we all are to share our story, to share our stories with each other. So, if you're out there and you're struggling, I want to tell you that your stories do matter. And even if no one in your immediate life cares, you will find people that do. It's one thing to assume that people will like you across the internet, but it's another thing when you get to meet them in person, when you actually get to spend time with them in person. It makes you feel really grateful, and it does boost your confidence. Like, I'll tell you this, I had the biggest boost of confidence I have ever had in my life. I rode that wave, that high of confidence and joy and happiness for almost a week. And now it's back again, you know? So, another plot twist to this whole story. We didn't just win second place. I'm editing this in the recent-ish future. I don't know how we describe it. Today's November 24th, a couple days before the official upload of all these videos, and I go to check my email for the laurels, and I get an email from the festival itself, so I get my second place laurel to put on the front of it. But when I checked it, I checked my phone, and I didn't immediately cue into the fact that there was more files added to it. And so I open it up on my desktop where I'm editing the footage, and it turns out that there were more than just the second place, because apparently we had also won best use of theme and prop color. This is just icing on the cake. No pun intended, but still, like, yeah, this is really great news to be witness of. So yeah, I'll get you on back to the past, present-ish version of me. Whatever, it doesn't make sense. I think that's honestly a power of art itself, a collaborative art like film or even in my other case, theater, because you get to form bonds. You get to form friendships that you could trust in, especially if you are a survivor of trauma like I have. It means a lot, like really, really a lot. And so, yeah, it's really great. So anyway, back to past me to finish out this video. Yeah, and hopefully, I'll make more. I'll make more films, bring more people in, because I got courage, I got confidence, and more importantly, I have hope now. I mean, I've had hope before, but I now have lots of it. So yeah. And I'm glad I got to be a part of it. I'm glad that I got to create another film this year. So yeah. This has been the behind the scenes of Birthday Wish. And yeah, go watch the film. Have fun. Happy birthday to anyone that is celebrating a birthday today. I hope your birthday does not loop progressively.